Hey guys, Moses with Negron Tech here, and I am back with the more refined version of my my enhancement, my Spellblade, Mage Knight, whatever you want to call it, melee spellcaster hybrid shaman that is primarily 100% lightning focused. So I really just love the visuals. I love the art. I love the spell effects. Like the lightning variant of the shaman, especially melee, is just so damn cool. So I am going to be sticking with that core theme in this refined build guide. There are better variants, I feel like, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So how do we do damage? We spam Tempest Strike to our heart's content, and while we spam Tempest Strikes, we're going to expend our Storm Stack, which are going to have a huge more multiplier by expanding them through Tempest Strike, not just our normal Storm Stack frequency. How do we generate all those storm stacks? We actually just gathering storm one time, and then due to Friends of the Tempest, our 3 wolves and our storm totem are going to consistently generate and keep us at max stacks, which is 15 due to Friends of the Tempest. So besides that, you're going to howl for frenzy and more melee damage when you can, and then you're going to leap slam around the battlefield for a big damage buff, flat added melee and spell, immunity, heal, cleanse, all that other good stuff. For defenses, we utilize armor stacking as well as reducing damage from nearby enemies due to the Beastmaster tree. Our primary defensive mechanism is actually going to be Aspect of the Boar, which we do get from going deeper into the Beastmaster tree. This is an absolutely bonkers defensive ability, and due to our playstyle, we're going to have 100% uptime due to generating Aspect of the Boar when we go on hit, which enables us to have 100% Aspect of the Boar duration with a couple affixes. This is going to give us a 30% damage reduction, and just know that it also heavily increases our health regen, and the health regen combined with overall spell and melee leech is going to help us with our health recovery when we take damage. Now, the big thing about Aspect of the Boar is that there are plenty of affixes that increase the duration, but we also have affixes, especially with idols, that increase effect. Now, even something as small as a 10% increased effectiveness of Aspect of the Boar is going to be another 3% less damage taken, and you can see how crazy this gets with idol and affix stacking, how much defenses we can get. And then again, as a lightning build, generating max shock stacks, we got to have a very, very high chance to stun, which really helps when we're in the monoliths. Our utility is going to be Leap Slam. I already mentioned it a bit, but we get damage immunity in tough spots, that big damage buff from Leap Slam, not just to us, but our companions, our minions, our wolves, and totems. We also just get the innate mobility that Leap Slam provides, as well as pulling people in a nice tight area on our leap and giving us frenzy. Speaking of companions, they just generally provide us a minimal amount of damage, but what they really provide us is just some utility, and of course, just generating storm stacks, because that's what the build is all about. Getting massive storm stacks up to 15 due to our companions, and then dumping them with Tempest Strike at an extremely fast attack speed. So for scaling the build, that's kind of our defensive and offensive like summary, but how do we scale damage? You know, there is an opportunity cost in every action RPG, and Last Epoch is no different. If you want to be a melee or caster, you really can only pick one, but Last Epoch has a couple unique things that we can do. So as a melee spell blade hybrid, there's a couple things that are going to go into it. The first big thing is that we're going to scale and stack attunement. Attunement is huge because it's going to give us everything we need. It's going to give us flat added damage to our Stormbolt. It's going to increase our melee damage. It's going to increase our spell lightning damage. It's going to do everything for us, and it's going to even indirectly increase our damage due to Gathering Storm and a node in there that's going to give us more max mana. From there, crit and crit multi are both going to scale both our damage sources, and we'll utilize that on some of the gear affixes when we can. So our main source of damage is again Stormbolt. We naturally expend Stormbolt every 1 second. That's our so-called frequency, right? 1 second frequency for expending a storm stack. But we don't care about that at all, because the main way of expending stacks is going to be dumping Tempest Strike. We do not care about frequency at all. Every time we hit with Tempest Strike, we utilize and dump a stack. This allows us to forego any frequency concerns, and now we add more flat damage from sources like idols, because we don't care about the frequency, so now we get up to like 30 free flat damage to Stormbolt, which is very, very, very huge. We also indirectly have a chance to cast Stormbolt on hit, which is a 1 second cooldown. We also generate Stormbolt when we are hit, a chance, and then we also have a chance to double cast Stormbolt, and a higher chance to double cast Stormbolt on rare and bosses. So starting with Tempest Strike, we're going to utilize a zero cost Tempest Strike that utilizes no Tempest to give us massive attack speed. We're also going to go for big attack speed and reduce mana cost in the rest of the tree. But the big thing about Tempest Strike is that all this attack speed and flat mana is going to help us generate the mana to make sure we're at max mana to utilize Excited Bolts to its maximum effect, giving us huge flat damage. Since we are attunement stacking, we also get that max mana and max regen, plus the on-hit mana from Tempest Strike is going to keep us at max. We also get a huge factor is going to be Gladiator of Lagan for huge Stormbolt damage, and it also affects our minions too, because remember, our wolves are generating Stormbolts on their own, and our Storm Totem is doing spell damage. So the flat spell damage, you know, you're going to get 10, 12, 14 stacks. It gets really, really up there. It's just massive, massive, massive damage. And of course, as we're expending Storm stacks using Tempest Strike, we get an innate 60% more multiplier for Stormbolt, which is very, very, very good. Next is Gathering Storm, with the most important nodes being Friends of the Tempest and Excited Bolts. I just mentioned Excited Bolts, but really what's it going to do, to put it simply, is that every 100 mana that's current when that Stormbolt triggers is going to be 30% more multiplier. We're attunement stacking. You're going to get 300 mana easily. That's a 90% more multiplier on Stormbolt for just a 1% mana cost. It's absolutely nuts. You're always going to be very, very, very high mana unless there's like 100 mobs on the screen. But, you know, for single target, it's just massive. And even the monoliths, it's very, very good. It's just an insane node. So next up is our... Now, generally go for more multipliers. Just make sure you go for the more multipliers that target Gathering Storm, not just the melee portion of Gathering Storm. That way they do affect Stormbolt as well. I also like to grab Lightning Gale for haste. You're going to have almost permanent haste for monoliths, and then also Whirlwind Tactics to expend some more storm stacks on companion ability on use, which we do a lot. Next up, we'll actually go into the companions, and our first one's going to be the wolves. First up, grab Shaman's Bond, which is going to enable attunement stacking for the wolves, which is huge because they don't get that innately. Max companion limit as well as an additional wolf, then Stormborn as well to increase their Stormbolt retaliation chances up to 60, and then they also have a 10% chance on hit to cast their own Stormbolt. Now remember, these benefit from the Gathering Storm tree, but they're going to scale with the minion damage and minion spell damage, not ours. For Storm Totem, you know, besides the innate minor damage it gives, we just get more armor from having a totem up, more attack speed, and the resist. We also get some flat melee added. Our wolves get that too. Not a huge deal, but it does help us in melee a little bit more. And then more importantly, we get the move speed on their chance to shock. So you're going to get a 40% move speed up all the time. They're monoliths. Really helps us zoom around the map. And then we also increase our lightning damage a good amount when Storm Totem. Finally is Leap Sand, which I already talked about. Alright, sorry guys, this is the second time I'm recording this portion of the video because I messed up having the game audio so loud that you couldn't even hear me talk. So for cleanse, heal, this is a lot of its personal preference. I like wolves leaping with me. The flat, global, melee, and spell damage is very, very good. The immunity, and then when you jump, you know, you bring everybody in with the AoE. It's very, very, very nice, and you get frenzy. One thing I like to note is that Frenzy comes from Wolf's Howl too, so you can, like, while Monolith, you can jump, get Frenzy for a little bit, Howl, you know, get Leap on the next one, and then, you know, that's how you maintain the permanent Frenzy. One thing to note here is that DPS-wise, and maybe even survivability, Maelstrom is just better. Even just being a cold spell, and even though we're lightning focused, the DPS is still very, very good with attunement stacking and all the flat damage we get, especially with Gladiator of Lagan, and all the other flat sources. Because the thing is that every flat source is per that stack, and it just multiplies, right? It just gets bigger, bigger, and bigger. The only issue with Maelstrom is that even if you spec into Rending Vortex and Eye of the Storm, Rending Vortex is the crit. The benefit is nuts. Again, Maelstrom is just better DPS. This is one of the reasons. The issue is even within Eye of the Storm, idols that you can get Maelstrom chance, Maelstrom on hit, it is not enough to here it is. It's not enough to get 6+ stacks. That's the issue, right? And you know, due to the way the crit portion works, it stacks. Due to the way the survivability, the heal, and the overall DPS, because one stack doesn't really do anything, you need to stack it up. You can't get 6 stacks with just those auto triggers. You have to put it on your hotbar, and you have to go Slumber of Lagan, which means that you're just constantly like stopping and casting, and the quality of life is terrible. For ball scene, it's objectively like so much better, and even monoliths, you know, too, it probably is better, but it is so awful. It just feels like rat ass to play. So that's why I don't go with it. If you don't mind using it, then by all means, go ahead. Like, it's really, really, really incredible. Another thing to note is that Warcry is another viable option. Talking about Wolves and Storm Totem, they're very, very good at generating stacks. It might be overkill having 4 total pets. It might be overkill having Wolves when the Storm Totem casts so fast and generates its own stacks. So you might be able to fit Warcry in there, even go Warcry Totem to get the Totem benefits if you drop Storm and not Wolves. But Warcry is incredible. Berserk is so good. Just note that it is melee damage only. It's not going to buff your Storm Bolts. But getting increased damage taken from enemies, heal, cleanse, you know, the Breath of a Terror heal, like it's very, very good, especially the crit chance and regenerating, well, generating another Warcry on crit is just absolutely an incredible option. And I still have to test it a little bit, but it's very, 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 very good. And all your spec skills go in the skill bar. Talking about idols, the big ones are going to be the ornate idols that give you the flat spell damage. Again, we don't care about frequency. Frequency does nothing for us. We could have 0 frequency and we would still do incredible DPS as we're dumping stacks through Tempest Strike. Aspects of the board duration's good. You know, the other ones you could just go utility. Doesn't really give you a lot of room to do anything else. With the idols, you can do, can you do 4? No, you can't do 4. So, yeah, you're pretty much stuck doing a kind of a setup like this. But the flat spell damage is just huge, right? You can look at this, 430, 59. I don't know why it's so low, because I'm probably not in the combat area. I don't know. But 430, and then we go here. Oh, so you lost like 300 DPS. It's more severe as you get the higher numbers. But I feel like some of my buffs and stuff aren't up. Maybe if I just go in the map, it'll be different. But, yeah, that's that. Another thing to note is that when we're talking about gear, again, it's the same thing. Increased spell damage. Well, not spell damage. Increased lightning. Attunement, you get your tank stats where you can. This thing is always bugged. One of the good affixes is going to be aspect of the board duration. You know, the increased health percentage, the hybrid health is really, really good. And, you know, that's really what you want to go for. Crit is very, very, very good too. And then, of course, the weapons are going to be your biggest portion. Is going to be the Tempest Maul. Like, it's just disgusting getting attunement, strength, flat added melee, flat added spell. Like, there's nothing that really comes close to this. And you'll even see, like, while I'm doing monoliths, like, I just chill and, like, the build's very, very automated. And a big thing is that you reduce the mana cost of the Storm Totem, so you're always at high mana. You're always just chilling. You're having a great time. You know, you almost always at max stacks. Like, even with all the attack speed buffs, you might have an issue generating them fast enough to, like, really get full value of Friends of the Tempest. But, you know, it's really... That's something to think about why I brought up that you might want to drop even Wolves or Storm Totem. I've tested a little bit. I'm not sure I'm going to keep going that route, but it is something to think about. And that's pretty much the gear. Like, these are just far and away best in slot, and you just get the other affixes where you can. One thing to note is that increased elemental damage is not a good affix. We are lightning focused, so just try to go for lightning because the elemental affix has a smaller spell range than, what's it called? Than pure, right? So like lightning might go up to like 100, for example, and then elemental might only go to 60. So that's something to think about, right? And that's pretty much it for the gear. I talked about some of the other options, and sorry I'm playing and like being a little bit all over the place, but trying to get this video done because I got to go to work in an hour, finish editing the video, and then hopefully get this out by tomorrow morning. The other thing to note is that some closing thoughts. The build really excels when it comes to doing monoliths. That's its biggest benefit. And the thing is that trying to think. I don't want to die here actually. This is not the strongest variant of the build. The strongest variant of the build is probably Fizz. And what you would do, I don't know why these guys are so tanky. Oh, 50% glancing blows. Jesus, that guts me, right? And I'm also doing this video at the same time. Oh wow, that's good. All right. So, talking about the best version of the build. And you know what? While I'm doing this, let me talk about the loot filter real quick. I'll put it in the description. The loot filter is pretty much... These blues are like any primalist affix that you want of Shatter, right? And then light blue is going to be really important with the hybrid health. You always want to get those because it's a very, very rare one. You never, ever want to not shatter that hybrid health because, like, even all this time, I still have, like, less than 20 affixes or shards of that one. Alright, back to the strong variants. So, what's going to happen is that Friends of the Tempest works with Stormbolt and Frostbringer. I haven't tested them yet, but that means that if your wolves are cold, then all of a sudden those cold skills is going to generate stacks. If your Storm Totem or your Thorn Totem is cold, that's going to generate stacks. The reason why I say the Fizz is probably the best variant is because you can pretty much automate casting. It's one less thing to do. Automate casting of your Thorn Totem with idle slots. Even with just 1 or 2 idols, your massive attack speed is going to pretty much have like the max amount of Thorn Totems up. And then what you can do, because now you're only 1 damage type, which is Fizz, because the Storm Bolts are Fizz. So because your Storm Bolts are Fizz, your Thorn Totem's Fizz, you can Maelstrom convert to Fizz, and that's probably going to be your like best variant to play of a Fizz Storm Bolt. But the issue with that is that it's not very visually pleasing. I don't like the look of it. The lightning spell effects, the lightning wolves, the overall lightning storm bolts, it just looks so much more visually pleasing to me. And having the Tempest Mauls, you know, if you can get 2 or 3 LPs on this, it'd be massive. So that's one thing. But again, that's probably the best variant. Another thing to note is that Storm Wolves, I keep saying Storm Wolves, versus Storm Crows. You might be, oh, Moses, how come you don't just go Storm Crows? They are objectively better than Wolves. They provide massive damage. When you have Aspect of the Crow and Gladiator's Lagan at the same time, you're getting like 100 total stacks up with the Wolves just going to town, giving you these stacks. Like, they're both 8-second durations. We attack really fast. You go Crow attack speed, cast speed, I mean. And you get a whole bunch of melee and spell lightning damage, which you're kind of double dipping from because you're a melee and spell. You benefit from both. They're huge. The issue with Stormcrow is that even though the tree is insane, like with Thunderstruck 2, not Thunderstruck, Fulminating Call, they just die like glass. We're not a Beastmaster. We have no minion survivability. Even going Navigator good, Silverberries and good berries healing us, cooldown recovery, they just die like crazy. Even I ignored all this and I went nimbleness, full tank, they still died like crazy. The only way that they don't get absolutely giga shit on during maps is if you go like some minion survivability like this. But that's a big opportunity cost losing a ring. Like, every piece of gear is good, but that's the nice thing about ARPGs, right? There's opportunity cost, and that's the good thing about Last Epoch. You want to increase your overall DPS, you might have to give up a slot to increase the survivability of the Stormcrows. Again, they are much better than the Wolves. They give you way more much damage, especially single target, but they're glass. So if you can make it work, if you don't mind respecing the tree maybe a little bit, giving up a little bit of damage so you get that huge flat added from Stormcrows, you can go that route. I don't really prefer it, but that's that. And I think I talked about everything. Again, this is the second take I'm doing this, so I apologize if I missed something. But I have tried Thunder Earthquake. I've tried a lot of different melee builds. This is far and away the best variant. And the thing is that it's very flexible. If you want to do the cold variant, if you want to do the Fizz variant, the core of the build is pretty much Friends of the Tempest. You Gathering Storm 1 or 2 times. You wait literally a second, and you let your minions and totems go to town, providing you storm stacks, and you expending them through Tempest Strike, getting the huge benefit from max mana, from Excited Bolts, and you know, it's a very good build, and you can do a lot with it, guys. So hopefully this is a more refined version of the build, and I hope you enjoy. I still got a lot to do. Again, I'm not off until tomorrow, and then maybe I'll push a little bit more corruption. I'm only at I'm farther in another map, but this one I'm trying to get the better blessing in the Black Sun. But I'm at 136, and it's very smooth. Like you saw, I'm doing a map, not even I'm doing a monolith while I was talking, not even paying attention. I'm relatively tanky and pretty good damage. Mozu and Negron Tech here. Please comment, let me know what you guys are doing. I really appreciate the discussion, the community. It's very nice. I love talking about the game. I love talking about video games in general, tech too. So please leave a comment if you think I earned it. You know, like and subscribe too. No big deal if you don't. And hope you guys enjoyed. I don't know what I'll do for the next video. I might push Shaman a little bit, do a final update on that, and then maybe I'll do I want to do a Falconer or a Mage. I haven't played all the classes again. I barely played Last Epoch before release. So, hope you guys have a good one. Enjoy.